I'm sitting here in my small apartment in Philadelphia, looking out at the city I've called home for nearly 7 decades. My hands shake a little as I write this, not from fear, but from age and, perhaps the weight of what I need to tell you. At 92 years old, I don't have much time left, and there's something that's been eating at me for the past 30 years. Something I need to get off my chest before I go. You see, I made a mistake, a big one, and it didn't involve gambling, drugs, or any of the dramatic pitfalls you might expect. My mistake was quieter, more insidious, and it cost me everything I could have had. It cost me the retirement I dreamed of, the security I craved, and worst of all, it cost my children and grandchildren opportunities I should have been able to give them. My mistake was simple, but let me tell you the whole story, because this isn't just about money. It's about time, and time is something you can never, ever get back. Let me take you back to 1952. I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school in a working-class neighborhood in South Philly. My father worked at the shipyard, and I got a job at a local manufacturing plant making decent money, about $1.50 an hour, which felt like a fortune back then. By 1955, I was making $2.25 an hour, working 50 hours a week. I was bringing home about $450 a month after taxes. I was careful with money, you understand. My mother raised me right. I didn't blow my paycheck on fancy cars or expensive clothes. I saved. Every month, I'd put $50 into my savings account at the local bank. I was proud of myself, really proud. I watched that savings account grow, $50, then $100, then $500. By the time I was 25, I had saved nearly $4,000. That was real money in 1959, real money. But here's what I didn't know, what nobody told me, what I wish to God someone had sat me down and explained. That money sitting in my savings account was barely keeping up with inflation. I was earning maybe 2 to 3% interest, while inflation was eating away at my purchasing power. I wasn't getting ahead. I was just standing still, you see. Meanwhile, something incredible was happening in America that I completely missed. In 1957, the S&P 500 existed, though I didn't know what it was. Companies like General Electric, AT&T, and General Motors were trading on the New York Stock Exchange. Regular people, not just the wealthy, could buy shares in these companies. But I didn't know that. Or rather, I knew it existed, but I thought it was for other people. Rich people, educated people, people who wore suits to work, not factory overalls like me. I remember my supervisor, a man named Frank, who was about 45 at the time, tried to talk to me about it once. It was 1960, and I was 26 years old. "Jimmy," he said. "That's my name, James, but everyone calls me Jimmy. You're young. You should be putting some of that money you're saving into stocks." I laughed, actually laughed at him. "Frank, I'm not some Wall Street guy. I'm just trying to save up for a house." He pressed me, you know. "That's exactly why you should invest," he said. "You put $50 a month into good companies, and by the time you're my age, you'll have real money." I shrugged him off. The stock market seemed risky, complicated, foreign. My savings account felt safe. I could see the numbers grow every month. That felt real. Stocks felt like gambling to me. Frank retired in 1975 with a portfolio worth over $200,000, equivalent to over $1 million in today's money. He'd been investing $100 a month since 1945. I learned this at his retirement party, and I remember feeling a twinge of something. Maybe envy, maybe regret, but I pushed it down. I was doing fine, I told myself. I had my savings. But let me show you the numbers that haunt me now, the numbers that keep me up at night. This is the math I finally learned at 60 years old, when it was far, far too late to make a real difference. From 1960 to 1990, 30 years, the S&P 500 averaged about 10% annual returns, including dividends. If I had taken just $50 a month, money I was already saving anyway, and put it into, a simple index fund, well, they didn't exist yet, but let's say I'd invested in a diversified portfolio of blue chip stocks. Here's what would have happened. After 30 years, at age 56 in 1990, I would have had approximately $339,000. Let me say that again, because I want you to really hear this, really understand it. $339,000. And that's without increasing the amount I invested, even as my salary grew over the years. But I didn't do that. Instead, I kept my money in savings accounts and later in CDs when interest rates were good in the early 1980s. By 1990, my savings had grown to about $47,000. Not nothing, but nowhere near what it could have been. The difference? $292,000. Gone. Vanished. Never to exist, because I couldn't get that time back. But it gets worse. Much, much worse. And this is the part that really breaks my heart, that makes me want to weep. If I had invested that $50 a month from 1960 to 1990, and then just left it alone, didn't touch it, didn't add to it, just let it sit there growing, do you know what it would be worth today, in 2026? Approximately $8.7 million. Let me write that out so you can see it clearly. $8,700,000. I'm sitting here in my one-bedroom apartment, surviving on Social Security and a small pension, and I could have been a multi-millionaire. My children could have gone to any college they wanted without debt. My grandchildren could have had trust funds. I could have donated to causes I care about, made a real difference in the world, helped people who needed it. Instead, I have about $78,000 in savings, a paid-off apartment worth maybe $150,000, and Social Security that barely covers my medical expenses and basic needs. The medicine alone, don't get me started on the medicine costs. Looking back, I can see all the mental barriers I erected, all the excuses I made. Let me share them with you, because I just bet, some of you are making the same excuses right now, telling yourselves the same lies I told myself. I thought I didn't have enough money to invest. I thought you needed thousands of dollars to start. I didn't know you could buy stocks with small amounts. Today, you can start with literally $5. $5! I had no excuse, but I didn't know better. Nobody told me. I thought the stock market was too risky. Yes, It goes up and down, sure, but over 30, 40, 50 years, it's always gone up. Always. The risk isn't in the market. The risk is in not being in the market. But nobody told me that back then. My biggest excuse, though, was that I didn't understand it. I didn't understand stocks, so I avoided them completely. But here's the truth I learned too late. Way too late. You don't need to understand how a car engine works to drive a car, do you? No, you don't. I could have invested in index funds or mutual funds and done just fine without understanding every little detail, every technical thing. I also told myself I needed to save for a house first. I saved for a house. Bought one in 1968 for $23,000. It's a fine house, and I'm glad I bought it. But why did it have to be either or? I could have saved $30 for the house and invested $20 for my future. Instead, I thought I had to do one or the other, black or white, no middle ground. But the killer, the one that really destroyed my financial future, the one that haunts me every single day, was telling myself I'd start investing later, when I was making more money. This haunts me every single day. I kept thinking, when I get a raise, I'll start investing. When I get that promotion, I'll start. But when I got raises, my expenses grew too. I got married, had kids, bought a bigger house, got a nicer car. There was always something else, always another excuse, always another reason to put it off. I was 59 years old when I finally opened my first brokerage account. 59! It was 1989, and I'd just been to a financial seminar at work. They were trying to get us to contribute to the new 401k program the company was offering. The financial advisor, a young woman probably in her 30s, showed us a chart. It showed what $100 a month invested from age 25 to 65 would become. About $1.17 million at historical market returns. Then she showed what the same total amount invested, $48,000, would become if you started at age 55 instead, about $79,000. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, like someone had knocked all the air out of me. I'd been working for 41 years, and I had just figured out that I'd missed the opportunity of a lifetime. I started investing then, putting $200 a month into mutual funds. But I only had 6 years until I retired at 65. 6 years. By the time I retired in 1999, my investments had grown to about $18,000. It was something, but it wasn't life-changing. It didn't change anything really. Let me tell you about 3 guys I worked with, all around my age, all started at the same place I did. Frank, the supervisor I mentioned, he retired comfortable, real comfortable. His wife never had to work if she didn't want to. They traveled all over, Europe, Asia, you name it. They helped their kids buy houses, paid for college. When Frank died at 87, he left each of his 3 children over $300,000. Then there was Mike. Mike started investing in his 40s, not as early as Frank, but earlier than me. Mike had to work until he was 72 because he needed the money, but he eventually retired with enough to live comfortably. Not wealthy, but comfortable, you know? He could pay his bills, take a vacation once a year, help his grandkids a little bit. And then there was Johnny. Johnny was like me, saved but didn't invest. Johnny is 91 now, still alive, and he works part-time at a grocery store, bagging groceries because he needs the money. His social security isn't enough. At 91 years old, he stands on his feet for 20 hours a week because 50 years ago he didn't invest. His knees hurt, his back hurts, but he has no choice. You know what the real tragedy is? What really gets me? I lived through the greatest economic expansion in American history. From 1960 to 2000, America created more wealth than any nation in any period in human history. The stock market went up over 10,000%. Regular people, secretaries, factory workers, teachers, bus drivers, became millionaires by simply investing regularly in index funds. And I missed it. I was there. I had a front row seat to the greatest wealth creation machine ever invented. And I sat on the sidelines with my money in a savings account earning 3%. Let me give you some perspective here, because this is important. This is what you need to understand. If you're 25, and you invest $200 a month until you're 65, at 10% average returns, you'll have about $1.4 million. If you're 35 and start investing $200 a month until 65, you'll have about $528,000. If you're 45 and start investing $200 a month until 65, you'll have about $189,000. If you're 55 and start investing $200 a month until 65, you'll have about $44,000. Do you see the pattern? Do you see what time does? The earlier you start, the more dramatic the results. And it's not because you're investing more money. It's because time multiplies your money in ways that seem almost magical, almost impossible. You know what keeps me up at night? What makes me cry sometimes when I'm alone? It's not the vacations I didn't take or the car I didn't buy. It's the bigger things, the things that really matter, the people I love. My daughter Sarah wanted to go to medical school. She was smart enough, so smart. She got accepted to a good school, a really good school, but she couldn't afford it, and I couldn't help her. I didn't have the money. She became a nurse instead, still a noble profession, don't get me wrong. I'm proud of her, but I know she wonders what could have been. I see it in her eyes sometimes. If I'd invested properly, I could have written a check for her tuition without blinking an eye. My son Michael's business failed during the 2008 recession. He needed $30,000 to keep it afloat. Just $30,000. I didn't have it. He lost everything. His business, his savings, his house. If I'd invested properly, I could have helped him. Instead, I had to watch my son lose his dream, and there was nothing I could do. Nothing. I felt so helpless, so useless as a father. My wife Eleanor died 5 years ago. In her last years, she needed care I couldn't afford. We had to rely on Medicaid. She spent her final months in a nursing home that, well, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what she deserved. Not for a woman who gave me everything, who stood by me for 60 years. If I'd invested properly, she could have had private care, dignity, comfort in her final days. Instead, these are the real costs of my mistake. Not just numbers on a page, but the life I could have given the people I love. If you're in your 20s or 30s reading this, you probably think retirement is a million years away. You're right, it is. And that's exactly why you need to start now, right now. You think you have time. I thought I had time too. Then I blinked and I was 50. I blinked again and I was 70. And now I'm 92. And time is the one thing I can't get back, no matter how much I wish I could, no matter how much I'd give to have it back. Every month you wait is costing you thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars in future wealth. Not because of the money you didn't invest this month, but because of the compound interest you lost on that money. If you're in your 40s or 50s and you haven't started investing, you might be thinking it's too late. It's not. It's not too late. I started at 59, and even that made a difference. You still have 15 to 25 years until retirement. That's enough time to build something meaningful, something real. Here's what I've learned in 92 years on this earth. Money isn't everything, but the lack of money touches everything. Everything. It affects your health because you can't afford good care. It affects your relationships because financial stress destroys marriages and families. I've seen it happen. It affects your freedom because you can't afford to quit the job you hate or help the people you love when they need you most. I'm not saying money brings happiness, but I am saying that the absence of financial security brings a very specific kind of suffering that could have been avoided with simple actions taken early. The mathematics of compound interest don't care about your excuses. They don't care if you didn't understand. They don't care if you were scared. They just are. Cold, hard mathematics. And every year you wait makes the mountain higher and steeper, harder to climb. I'm 92 years old. I could go tomorrow, or I might have a few more years. I don't know. Nobody knows. But I know this. I don't want to die knowing that someone read these words and still made the same mistake I did. If you take nothing else from my story, take this. Start investing today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you get your next raise. Today. Open that brokerage account. Set up automatic contributions. Even if it's just $20 a month, even if it seems pointless, even if it seems too small to matter, do it. Your 65-year-old self will thank you. Your children will thank you. Your grandchildren will thank you. I can't get my time back. I can't undo my mistake. The money I could have had is gone forever, vanished into the wind because I was too scared, too ignorant, too stubborn to listen to people who knew better. But you can avoid making this mistake in the first place. The best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. The second best time is today, right now. Please, I'm begging you, learn from my mistake. Don't let the next 92-year-old be you, sitting in a small apartment, writing about the life you could have had if only you'd started investing when you were young. Time is running out for me, but for you, you still have all the time in the world. Use it wisely. Don't waste it like I did. That's all I wanted to tell you before I go.